In the heart of Umadaik, a village where the earth breathed life into the yams and the sun smiled upon the children, life moved to a familiar, gentle rhythm. Smoke from cooking fires danced towards the morning sky, mingling with the laughter of children playing hide-and-seek among the mud huts. It was a place of community, of shared joys and sorrows. In the center of this vibrant life was Mama Nkiru. Her compound was a testament to her spirit, always bustling, always filled with the sounds of her children. With her youngest Emeka tied snugly to her back, she stepped out into the morning, her face a canvas of contentment. Her friend, Mama Adaku, saw her from across the way and called out, her voice ringing with affection. "And Kiru," she laughed, "your house is always as noisy as market day on Eek." Mama Nkiru's smile widened, reaching her eyes. "And is that not better than the silence of an empty home, my friend?" They shared a laugh, a sound as warm and comforting as the morning sun. But not all eyes that watched them held such warmth. From a distance, Ngozi, a childhood friend of Nsieru's, observed them. A smile touched her lips, but it was a brittle, fragile thing, a mask that failed to hide the bitter envy that coiled in her heart. Her own compound was quiet, her womb barren, and the sound of Nkiru's joy was a constant, painful reminder of all she did not have. As the sun began its descent, casting long, weary shadows across the farmlands, Papa Obinna, Nkiru's husband, wiped the sweat from his brow. He was a strong man, a respected farmer whose yams were the envy of the village. He leaned against the ancient Iroko tree that stood sentinel over his land, intending to rest for just a moment. But a sudden, sharp dizziness seized him. The world tilted, the vibrant greens and browns of his farm blurring into a confusing swirl. He reached a hand out, as if to steady himself against the air itself. "Nkiru," he whispered, his wife's name a final, desperate breath on his lips. Then his strength gave out, and he collapsed onto the very earth he had so lovingly tilled. He did not get up again. Night fell on Umadaik, not with its usual gentle quiet, but with a shroud of grief. The heart-wrenching sound of wailing tore through the darkness, emanating from Mama Nkiru's compound. The women of the village had gathered, their cries a chorus of shared sorrow. Papa Obinna's body lay in the center of the hut, wrapped in white cloth, still and silent. Mama Nkiru, her face streaked with tears, threw herself towards him, her world shattered. "Obinna, my husband, wake up," she screamed, her voice raw with disbelief and agony. "Who will I call my husband now? Who will sit at the head of my table?" The weight of her loss was too much to bear, and with a final choked cry, she collapsed beside him, unconscious. Days later, the village square was somber. The drums beat a slow, mournful rhythm for Papa Obinna's burial rites. The elders, led by Elder Okik, chanted invocations to the ancestors, asking for safe passage for the departed soul. But Mama Nkiru heard none of it. She sat woodenly, her eyes staring into a distance no one else could see, her spirit seemingly departed with her husband's body. "It is the will of the ancestors," Elder Okik said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "We cannot question their wisdom. Mama Nkiru did not respond. She did not even blink. A part of her had been buried with Obina, and the laughter that once filled her compound had been silenced. Months crawled by, each day heavier than the last. The vibrant colors of Mama Nkiru's life had faded to a desolate gray. One night, a new terror visited her hut. Her eldest son, Chukwudi, lay on his mat, his body consumed by a raging fever. She had tried every herb, every poultice she knew, but the fire in him would not be quenched. "My son, my firstborn, please open your eyes," she cried, cradling his hot body in her arms. "Don't leave your mother." But her pleas went unanswered. Chukwudi's breath became a shallow whisper, and then it ceased altogether. He died in her arms, leaving her with a cold emptiness and a fresh wave of unspeakable grief. Tragedy, once a stranger, now became a resident in her home. It was a cruel, relentless montage of suffering. Soon after Chukwudi was laid to rest, her daughter Ifunanya developed a persistent, hacking cough that stole the air from her small lungs. Desperate, Mama Nkiru ran from one shrine to another, offering sacrifices, begging the gods and spirits for mercy. But it was in vain. One by one, her children were snatched from her by unseen hands. The small patch of land behind her compound, once a garden, became a row of fresh graves, each one a monument to a stolen future. Her laughter, once the music of her home, was now a forgotten melody. The village, once a source of comfort, began to turn on her. Suspicion, like a venomous weed, took root in the fertile ground of their fear and ignorance. One market day, a gaunt and hollow-eyed Mama Nkiru approached a stall to buy gari. "Please, my sister," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "measure some gari for me, my children, I have nothing to feed." She trailed off, remembering. The market woman recoiled as if Nkiru were a leper. "I don't sell to witches," she spat, her voice loud enough for others to hear. A venomous murmur spread through the market like a bushfire. How can one woman lose a husband and all her children, one after the other? One villager whispered, "It is not natural, she eats them." Another added with chilling certainty, "She sacrifices them at night to renew her own life." The accusations, sharp as shards of glass, pierced Mama Nkiru's already broken heart. The coins she held fell from her trembling hand, scattering in the dust. She dropped to her knees in the middle of the bustling market, her dignity stripped away. "If I am guilty of this wickedness," she cried out to the sky, "let the earth open now and swallow me whole." But the earth remained stubbornly solid beneath her knees. The whispers soon grew into a roar of accusation. Papa Obina's brother Okafor, fueled by his own grief and greed for his brother's land, dragged Mama Nkiru before the Council of Elders. "This woman has brought a curse upon our family," he shouted, his face contorted with rage. "She has destroyed my brother's lineage. She must be a witch." Elder Okik, a man whose wisdom was now clouded by fear and public pressure, looked down at the weeping woman. "Confess your witchcraft, woman," he commanded, his voice devoid of sympathy. "Confess, and perhaps we will show you mercy." My children were my life, my breath, my joy. Mama Nkiru sobbed, her words lost in the rising clamor of the crowd. The villagers, now a mob, chanted in unison, which some of them dragged her, forcing a concoction of water and ground pepper into her eyes, an age-old method to force a confession from a witch. Amidst the chaos, Njozi, her supposed friend, was at the forefront, crying the loudest, her tears of fake sympathy a masterful performance of deceit. That very night, as Mama Nkiru writhed in pain, Njozi knelt in the dark secrecy of her own hut, before a small, wicked-looking collection of charms and effigies. She whispered her incantations. "Let her suffer as I have suffered," she hissed to the darkness, her voice dripping with years of pent-up jealousy. "Let her know the silence of an empty home. Let her womb be empty forever, and her heart know nothing but pain." As she spoke, a low rumble of thunder echoed in the distance, as if the very heavens were acknowledging her cruel prayer. The final blow fell soon after. Emeka, her last surviving child, the baby she had once carried so joyfully on her back, lay dying. His small body was frail, his breath a faint flicker. He looked at his mother, his eyes wide with fear. "Mama," he whispered, his voice as thin as a spider's thread. "Don't let me go. I am here, my love," she whispered back, holding his tiny hand. "Mama is here. I won't let you go." But even as she spoke the words, she felt the last spark of his life fade away. He was gone. A scream erupted from Mama Nkiru's throat. It was not a scream of grief or of pain. It was a sound that transcended human emotion, a primal, soul-shattering shriek that broke the stillness of the night and cracked the heart of the village. It was the sound of a soul being utterly and irrevocably destroyed. The youths of the village, emboldened by the elder's verdict, gathered outside her hut. They banged on tins and pots, their voices a cacophony of cruelty. "Witch, come out." One shouted, "Come out and fly now. Your work is done." Inside, Mama Nkiru huddled in a corner, shaking uncontrollably. The world a terrifying nightmare from which she could not wake. At dawn, when the first light of day filtered through the cracks in her hut, Mama Nkiru made a decision. The pain was too great, the emptiness too vast. She could not bear another sunrise in a world without her family. She fashioned a rope from her wrapper and tied it to a roof beam. But as she stepped off the stool, the door to her hut burst open. Mama Adaku, her one true friend, rushed in and, with a desperate cry, cut her down. "Nkiru, what are you doing?" Mama Adaku sobbed, holding her friend. "Do you want them to win? Do you want their lies to be your end?" Mama Nkiru simply collapsed into her friend's arms, her body racked with sobs that had no tears left to accompany them. It was Mama Adaku, were refusing to believe the lies, went to see Ogbala Udo, the village oracle who lived deep in the forest. That night, as incense smoke filled his shrine, the oracle fell into a trance, his voice echoing with otherworldly power. "The innocence of the dove is stained by the tears of the crocodile," he chanted. "The hand that cries with you in the day is the hand that kills you in the night. The oracle's words led the elders to Njosi's hut, hidden under her sleeping mat. They found the charms, the small effigies wrapped in black cloth, each representing one of Njiru's children. When she was dragged before the village the next day, the evidence displayed for all to see, Njosi finally broke. "What is the meaning of this, Njosi?" Elder Okik demanded, his voice trembling with dawning horror. Njosi collapsed to the ground, her facade crumbling to reveal the ugly truth beneath. "I didn't want her to die," she screamed, her confession a torrent of madness and envy. "I just wanted her to be quiet. I wanted her life to be quiet and empty, just like mine." A collective gasp swept through the crowd, followed by a profound, chilling silence. The truth, more terrible than the lies they had so eagerly believed, hung heavy in the air, and Njosi was banished. As she walked away, a lone, crying figure disappearing into the forest, no one spoke a word. Her punishment was to live with the silence she had so desperately craved for another. The elders, their faces etched with shame, knelt before Mama Nkiru in the village square. "Forgive us, Mama Nkiru," Elder Okik pleaded, his voice thick with remorse. "Our fear made us blind." Mama Nkiru looked at the kneeling men, at the silent crowd. Her eyes were empty, devoid of anger, of forgiveness, of everything. "Where are my children?" she asked, her voice flat and lifeless. "Can your forgiveness bring them back to me?" Silence was their only answer. In the evenings that followed, Mama Nkiru could be found sitting alone in her compound, her gaze fixed on the 5 small mounds of earth behind her hut. The village had cleared her name, but they could not restore her soul. The wind would blow gently through the trees, carrying the faint, ghostly sound of her voice as she hummed a lullaby she would never again sing to a sleeping child. Words can do away with someone faster than poison. Be careful whose tears you believe.